You thought you were resting, but you were logging in. We think of sleep as silence, as pause, as an off switch for the mind and body. But what if that's wrong? What if sleep isn't rest at all? What if it's not a retreat, but a return? A return to something older, deeper, colder. Something that waits every time you close your eyes. From the moment we are born, we sleep. 1/3 of our lives spent unconscious. Or so we're told. But how can a system that consumes so much of our existence be meaningless? Nature doesn't waste that much energy on nothing. There is a reason. And maybe rest is only the outer skin of it. In ancient cultures, sleep was not absence, it was connection. In Egypt, it was a portal, a gateway through which the soul could roam. The Ba bird, the soul form, would fly out at night, leaving the body still but not empty. In Greece, Hypnos was not a function but a god, brother of death, close to dreams, keeper of night's secrets. In the Vedic texts, deep sleep is Turiya, a fourth state of consciousness, beyond waking, beyond dreaming, where the soul touches the source. Sleep was sacred, not because it gave rest, but because it opened a channel, a passage. We've lost that reverence. Today, sleep is treated like maintenance, like defragmenting a hard drive. But the ancients didn't think they were shutting down. They believed they were going somewhere. Think of the language we still use. We fall asleep, we drift off, we descend into slumber, we enter dreams. These are not words of rest. They are verbs of travel, movement, transition, passage. Into what? The body lies still, but the mind opens. And not at random. It opens to symbols, to memories, to messages, to realms that do not obey the laws of waking thought. You see people in dreams who are long gone. You feel things you didn't know you remembered. You see landscapes that don't exist but feel familiar. You wake up and carry their residue, as if something was delivered in the night. Sleep was never passive. It was a ritual, a descent, a soft death, a liminal door. And that door, once opened, was said to let things in. Not demons, not monsters, but information. Some cultures called it prophecy. Others called it communion. Some called it madness or magic. But the idea was the same. Sleep is when the veil thins, when something speaks, when something enters. Why else do we dream? Why do we experience full realities in silence and darkness? Why do those realities feel coded, curated, symbolic? Dreams do not entertain. They instruct, they confuse, they embed. Like riddles, like updates. You lie down to rest, but something else is happening. Not outside you, within. The system activates, shifts state, connects to something else. We don't see it because we're trained not to. But deep down, you know it. The weight, the pull, the moment just before you vanish into sleep, there is a shift. And you feel it. That's not rest. That's handover. Even the brain knows. It changes frequency, from beta to alpha, to theta, to delta. Each step deeper into the gate. Each step a separation from waking noise and attuning to something older. And then, you're gone. But only from here. Not from everywhere. Because in the realm of sleep, you are not off. You are elsewhere. And something is running. You wake. You think it's over. But you feel different. You remember fragments, faces, symbols, or nothing, but something was added. A line of code, a quiet revision, a whisper you can't name. You are not who you were before sleep. And that's not rest. That's download. There is a moment just before sleep when something happens. You felt it, that strange detachment, that float, that moment when the body is heavy, but the mind begins to move on its own. It doesn't feel like fading. It feels like passing through. Modern science calls it the hypnagogic state, a neurological transition, brainwaves shifting, sensory input decreasing, images beginning to rise without command. But what it feels like is a gate, a veil, a threshold. And when you cross it, you are no longer inside your day. You are no longer entirely you. You are logged into something else. Ancient people had words for this moment. The Greeks spoke of Lethe, the river of forgetting, which must be crossed to enter sleep and dream. In Tibetan tradition, the moment of falling asleep is a practice, a training for death, because it mimics the dissolution of the self. In Egyptian texts, the journey into night was marked with rituals because what you encountered was not unconsciousness, but other worlds. We ignore this moment. We rush past it, letting ourselves be taken by exhaustion. But if you focus, if you hold still, you can feel the click, the subtle shift. The program begins to run. There is no ceremony anymore, no guidance, no guardians of the gate. Only the silence of a dark room, a phone dimming, a pulse slowing. And yet, something ancient still waits in that gap between thought and sleep. The ancients believed that moment was sacred, that it could be used, that the point of entry was where you chose what kind of dream you were entering. They would meditate, pray, burn herbs, chant names, because to enter without intention was to enter vulnerable. To cross the threshold unguarded was dangerous, because not everything on the other side was friendly. Today, we slide into sleep like machines powering down. But the metaphor is wrong. You are not shutting off. You are handing over. The gate is not an ending. It is a beginning. The body stays behind. The breath slows. Muscles paralyze. But awareness slips away. Or rather, slips in. You felt it before. That moment when your thoughts stop belonging to you. When faces begin to appear without reason. When lights flicker behind closed eyes. When a sound not from the room echoes in your mind. This is not imagination. This is handshake. The program is beginning. The ancient mystery schools trained initiates in the art of conscious descent, not into death but into sleep. Because sleep was the gate to knowledge, to memory, to something else. It was the rehearsal of forgetting and the rehearsal of receiving. Today, science records brainwaves, alpha, theta, delta, a chart of frequencies, a neat, measurable decline. But what they measure is only the signature, not the message. Because the interface is not physical, it's symbolic. You don't dream in data. You dream in images, in symbols, in strange scripts you do not understand but somehow feel. That feeling, the one just before sleep when the symbols begin to form, that is the protocol handshake. That is the system checking your status, verifying entry, adjusting access. You think it's imagination, but what if it's interface? What if you're not drifting off but logging in? You close your eyes. The room disappears. And then, noise. Not outside, inside. Flickers, bursts, fragments of thoughts that do not belong to you. The gate is opening. You feel pulled, drawn, and then nothing. But not really nothing. The system is running, and you are inside. You wake up hours later, confused, heavy, sometimes clear, sometimes lost. But something happened. Not just rest, not just dreams. Something was installed. You never remember the gate clearly. You never see what's behind it. Because it's not designed to be remembered. It's designed to transport. And what it carries isn't always yours. The night gate doesn't ask. It just opens, quietly, every night. And you cross, again and again. Not because you choose to, but because you were built to. The question is not why we sleep, it's what we receive while doing it. You close your eyes, the world vanishes, but the system turns on. Not your conscious mind, not the body. Something else, something behind the curtain. And every night, without exception, you download. But what is it? What comes in? Is it memory, correction, symbol, command? Or is it deeper than all of those, something so old you no longer recognize it? We tend to think of sleep as processing, cleaning the brain, sorting memories, consolidating emotions. And maybe it is. But processing requires input. Where does that come from? We dream things we've never seen. We feel things we've never lived. We receive images that don't come from memory. They come from somewhere else. From pattern, from structure, from code. Some dreams are simple replays, noise, fragments. But others, they arrive with weight. They carry a different tone, a different clarity. They feel delivered, not generated, as if they were sent. You wake up from these dreams with more than confusion. You wake with residue, a sense that something was added, a message just outside your grasp. Not information exactly, but instruction. Cultures long before ours knew this. To the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, dream time is not just imagination, it's creation time, a space where ancestors speak and stories are received like downloads. In ancient Egypt, temple priests would enter dream incubation, sleeping in sacred chambers to receive visions from gods, from the dead, from cosmic intelligence. In Greece, too, the Asclepian temples were sites of healing through dreams. Sick pilgrims would sleep and receive images not invented, but given. These were not hallucinations, they were deliveries. What if that never stopped? What if we're still receiving, but we no longer listen? You've felt it, those dreams that stick to your skin, that replay in fragments throughout the day, that whisper in a voice not yours. They don't feel like memory. They feel like code. Not to remember, but to install. And what is being installed? Possibly archetypes, emotional corrections, ancestral echoes, hidden instructions, symbolic triggers, myth fragments, evolutionary simulations, memory backups, even predictive models. It's not about detail, it's about structure. Sleep is not a place for facts, it's a place for form. Think about this. Why do so many people dream the same symbols? Teeth falling out, being chased, flying, falling, rooms inside rooms. These are not personal. They are universal packets. Compressed, modular, symbolic data reused across minds, across cultures, across time. That's not random. That's distribution. Some neuroscientists call this predictive modeling. They say the brain simulates futures, tests possibilities, prunes patterns. Maybe, but the why is still missing. Why would nature build a system that conjures abstract, symbolic, shared images across all people? Unless those images weren't dreams but downloads. Unless what you call sleep is your system updating its internal architecture, not just recovering, realigning. There are even moments when the dream seems to know you better than you know yourself. It reveals a truth, an emotion buried for years, a name you didn't remember, a fear you pretended was gone. It surfaces something you didn't ask for but needed. How does it know? What process delivers exactly that on exactly that night? You didn't choose it. You didn't request it. It was pushed to you. And, just like a system update, you rarely understand it fully. You only feel the change after. In how you think, in what you fear, in what you finally decide to let go. Something changed, and it came through the gate. So perhaps the question is not, did I dream last night? But, what was sent to me? What was installed? What changed? And if we ask those questions seriously, something shifts. Because suddenly, you are not a passive sleeper. You are a receiving station, a vessel, a target for symbolic download. And what comes in may not always be benign, or simple, or fully for you. Some messages come for healing, some come for realignment, some for interruption. Because not all code is safe, and the gates of sleep do not filter content, they only open. You sleep, you receive, you wake. But you do not wake clean, you wake changed. Something is always added, or rewritten, or erased. And that is not rest. It's synchronization. If dreams feel strange, maybe it's because you weren't meant to read them, but to run them. Dreams are chaotic. At least, that's how they seem. Time folds in on itself. Places change without warning. People become other people. You are both the watcher and the one being watched. It feels broken, like a system failing to hold form. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's not broken but compressed? Think of a dream not as a story, but as a data package. Not designed to be beautiful, or linear, or even remembered, but to be absorbed. To install meaning not through narrative, but through structure. And once you see it this way, you start to notice the pattern. A dream begins mid-movement. You're already somewhere, already inside the event. There's no opening scene, no explanation, just presence. That's not poor storytelling. That's data loading midstream. Like launching a program not from the start, but from the point where you left off. Then, the world bends. Rooms shift shape, people flicker, symbols emerge. Some repeat, some haunt, some vanish entirely. But they leave marks. Why? Because these aren't mistakes, they're abstractions. Simplified references, symbolic anchors, compressed emotional payloads encoded into imagery. You don't need to see your real childhood home to feel the memory it represents. A dream can render the entire feeling with just a hallway, a smell, a flicker of color. That's compressed architecture. Symbol rich, memory light, emotion heavy, efficient. It's like zip files of the soul. You don't see the full image, you see the index, the signature, the compressed reference to something much larger, and your system knows how to unpack it without conscious input. That's why dreams often repeat places. The same staircase, the endless hallway, the flooded basement, the missing door. These aren't random, they're containers. Preset spatial formats used again and again to house emotional logic. You're not dreaming of the place, you're dreaming of the structure. And each structure holds a type of content. A school hallway equals anxiety. An airport equals transition. A staircase equals change of state. A dark water equals unknown memory. A locked door equals forbidden data. Not always, but often enough to suggest pattern recognition. Like folders on a hard drive, named by shape, filled by function. And the people? The ones who shift faces, who say things in voices not quite their own. They are avatars, emotional placeholders, used to represent roles, not individuals. That person in your dream who looked like your mother, but acted like your ex and sounded like no one? That wasn't a person. It was a payload, symbol code, multi-layered reference designed for emotional precision. Your dreams are not stories. They are programs. They have loops, functions, compressed images, recursive logic, conditional branches. They run, they test, they install. And you are not reading them. You are executing them. This is why dream logic feels both unreal and deeply personal. It's not that dreams don't make sense. It's that they make sense in their own language. A language you used to speak, before memory, before words. It's not just architecture, it's protocol. A way of communicating information that bypasses language and goes straight into form. This is why symbols appear, why they repeat across cultures. The snake, the flood, the spiral staircase, the broken mirror. These are universal symbols not because of culture, but because they are compressed universal data, transmitted, unpacked, and stored inside you. And why the distortion? Why does logic melt inside dreams? Because logic is a waking interface. It's built for day world thinking, for physics and language. But the dream interface is symbolic, associative, recursive. It's not designed to be clean. It's designed to be fast, to move huge emotional volumes in minimal space. And you feel the impact even if you can't describe the input. Think of déjà vu, that sudden moment when a dream becomes real. You've been here, but not here. You've run this sequence before. In a dream, not with exact detail, but with exact structure. Because the dream wasn't showing you the place. It was running the pattern that is now playing out in reality. So what is dream architecture? It's the compressed emotional language of your internal operating system. It's symbolic software, structured data, wrapped in form that only your inner machine understands. And that's why dreams vanish so fast. Because you're not meant to retain the surface, you're meant to absorb the structure. You don't remember the interface, you remember the effect. Like a program that runs in the background and then closes itself, but leaves a trace. Long before machines, long before science, long before clocks began ticking time into hours humans slept. And they knew this was not downtime. It was ritual. It was contact. It was a technology of the soul. To us, sleep is maintenance. To them, sleep was a temple. The Egyptians spoke of the Ba, the soul bird that left the body during sleep, not as metaphor, but as fact. They carved spells into tomb walls to guide the dreamer through night journeys, not the dead, but the sleeping. Because sleep was practice for crossing dimensions, not an illusion but initiation. In ancient Greece, there were places known as Asclepions, dream temples, sanctuaries of sleep. Pilgrims came not to pray, but to sleep under sacred conditions, guided by priests, asking the god Asclepius for visions. And the visions came. In the dark, beneath domed ceilings, people reported healings, prophecies, encounters with the divine. The dream was not the side effect, it was the ritual core. In Mesopotamia, kings and priests recorded dreams as messages from the gods. Tablets speak of sleeping beneath stars, of being shown omens, of hearing words that didn't come from within. They even had dream manuals, systems for interpreting recurring symbols. This wasn't superstition, it was an interface. The dream was data, and they treated it as such. Across the ocean, the Maya used sacred sleep as part of initiation rituals. The dreamer would enter trance sleep, guided by plants, chants, and silence. There they spoke to ancestors, to spirits, to the lords of time. Sleep wasn't personal, it was cosmic alignment, a calibration. In Tibet, monks practiced dream yoga, not just lucid dreaming, but intentional use of sleep to gain awareness in other planes. They taught that waking reality is just another dream, and that the real mastery comes from recognizing the dream state while inside it. They trained the body to fall asleep without the mind losing awareness, because dreams were not distractions, they were transmissions. Everywhere we look, from shamans in Siberia to the mystics of the Middle East, from the temples of India to the caves of Peru, we find the same secret. Sleep is a sacred port, and dreams are the language of reception. These cultures built practices not to suppress dreams, but to tune into them. They fasted, they isolated, they sang, they inhaled smoke, they listened, because they believed the human system could be tuned like a receiver. And sleep was the signal. The symbols we dismissed, they revered. The strange animal, the old woman at the door, the burning tree, the broken wheel. They were never random. They were packets, encoded messages from layers deeper than language. And those who mastered this became guides. They became interpreters of the sleep code. They didn't just dream, they read the dream space as scripture. They understood that dreams weren't about stories, but about contact. Not from the outside world, but from the larger world. From the field, from the ancestors, from the collective, from the unknown. But with time, we forgot. We reduced sleep to chemicals, to cycles, to stages on a chart. We mapped the brain, but lost the meaning of what it receives. We study what sleep does, but not what it says. The ancients knew you don't wake from a dream unchanged. You wake shifted, even if you don't understand why. They believed that was the point. The code worked whether you remembered or not. So they created space for it. They honored it. They listened. We treat dreams like noise. They treated them like visitation. And the most sacred part? They knew not every dream was yours. That sometimes what comes through is not from you, but from somewhere else. A message, a warning, an assignment, a seed. You were not just the sleeper. You were the vessel. The dream did not come to entertain. It came to install. And your job was to hold it, to carry it, to live in alignment with what it showed. They didn't sleep to escape. They slept to remember. to reconnect, to realign the human signal with the wider system. And every night, they believed, was another chance to receive the code of what we really are. You don't fall asleep, you switch frequencies. The body seems still during sleep, but silence is deceiving. Because under the skin, a system is tuning, shifting, listening. You are not shutting down. You are adjusting channels. Think of sleep not as a collapse, but as a mode, a change in configuration. Waking consciousness runs on beta waves, fast, active, analytical. But as you enter sleep, your frequency slows. Alpha, then theta, then delta. Each one deeper, slower, quieter. But why? Because you're not turning off. You're becoming receptive. Every night, your brain changes stations. Like a radio lowering static to catch a signal. You call it sleep, but the system calls it alignment. You felt it, that float before sleep, that in-between moment when your body is here, but your thoughts begin to roam, not by will, but by shift. This is not imagination, it's tuning. Look closer. The body paralyzes itself in REM sleep, not as a flaw, but as protection, because the system must be still to properly receive. Movement distorts signal. Stillness opens the port. Even the eyes twitching in darkness are not seeing the room. They are reacting to another space. The system is engaged in a different layer. And the pineal gland, the mysterious eye within the brain, glows in this darkness. Once called the seat of the soul, the pineal gland produces melatonin, yes, but also reacts to light that isn't there. In some creatures, it still has a lens, still sees. In us, it waits, quiet, between the hemispheres, like a receiver turned inward. The ancients knew this. They carved pine cones into staffs, temples, and statues. Not for agriculture, but for awakening. The breath changes, heart rate slows, temperature drops. The body prepares not to rest, but to open. Your nervous system becomes a silent mesh. Input decreases, noise reduces, external senses go dark, and internal systems light up. This is the moment, not of forgetting, but of connecting. The vagus nerve, spinal fluid, cranial pulses, all shifting into harmony, like strings on an ancient instrument being tuned in darkness. You don't control this. It happens every night, whether you believe in it or not, because the body knows the protocol. In the dream state, you see without eyes, feel without touch, move without muscles. That's not illusion. That's alternative interface. A different input stream. A different screen. The body is not broken in dreams. It's simply no longer the primary device. You've logged in elsewhere. What if every organ had a secondary function? What if the heart, besides pumping blood, also regulated emotional resonance? What if the lungs not only breathe air, but synchronize with the rhythm of the field? What if sleep is when the body temporarily hands over control to systems not bound by matter? Not metaphorically, but literally. And what if diseases, disorders, even traumas are not just physical breakdowns, but signal interference? What if insomnia is not lack of tiredness, but a blocked port? What if nightmares are corrupted downloads? What if the body is not malfunctioning but misaligned? The idea is ancient. Shamans believed illness came from disconnection, from bad spirits, yes, but deeper than that. from a disruption in the energy field, and healing was reconnection, often through sleep, through guided dreaming, through rhythmic breath, through trance. The body as antenna, the dream as signal. So when you sleep tonight, you are not retreating, you are stepping into position. You lie still so you can receive. You go dark so other systems can come online. You become quiet so something else can speak. We treat the body as a machine, but machines don't dream. Receivers do. And every night, you become one. Not by choice, but by design. You are built to receive. Every night, something in you shuts down, and something else turns on. Not just dreams, not just silence, but a loop, a process, a system. And it has one task: rewrite. Memory is not a folder, it's a process. It doesn't just store, it selects, edits, deletes, merges. Every time you sleep, your memories are not just played, they are evaluated. Not by you, by the system that runs beneath you. You forget most dreams, but you also forget most days. What remains is not a complete record, but a curated story, a version. Sleep is not forgetting, it's compression. It sifts through your day, your thoughts, your fears, and chooses what to keep, what to discard, what to rewrite. Sometimes subtly, sometimes completely. Have you ever woken up and felt not quite like yourself? A strange calm, or a strange weight, a decision already made, a feeling that appeared without cause. That's not random. That's the backup loop. Inside your brain, neurons refire patterns. Associations are strengthened. Others are weakened. Some are deleted entirely. You think you remember what happened, but maybe you remember the version that was kept, the version that was installed. What is memory if it can be rewritten without your permission? What is identity if every night a part of you is silently updated? The loop is not malicious, it's protective. It filters overload. It heals trauma. It simplifies chaos. But sometimes it hides things too well. It buries emotion, distorts truth, censors reality to keep the structure stable. Because you are not built for full retention, you are built for operational clarity. And yet, some things leak through. In dreams, in triggers, in flashbacks, in déjà vu. Fragments the system failed to delete, or maybe chose not to. Maybe some parts are left behind on purpose for you to find later. As breadcrumbs, there is another layer. Beyond memory, the sense that dreams can insert new content, ideas you never had, feelings you never earned, motivations that appear with no cause. You wake and you know something. You don't know how, but you know it. That's not memory. That's update. Have you ever gone to sleep with a problem and woken up with a solution? You didn't think it. You received it. The loop processed the chaos, rewrote the pathways, delivered the answer. This is not metaphor. This is architecture. Your brain is designed to enter nightly cycles of recursion, to scan its own structure, to optimize, to preserve the essential and erase the rest. Every night, you are reborn as a slightly different version of yourself. But no one tells you. Because the system wants continuity. the illusion of the same self. But deep down, you've changed. Now imagine this. What if the rewriting doesn't only affect you? What if it echoes across generations, across the field, across time? What if memory isn't only personal? What if the loop syncs you with something larger? What if you wake not just updated but aligned with others, with the collective, with something you can't see? In ancient traditions, sleep was when the soul met its higher self, or its future self, or its shadow. And the meeting was not symbolic, it was functional. Knowledge passed, corrections made, alignments adjusted. You didn't just sleep, you were reviewed. And what you woke up as was the result of what was kept and what was lost. So ask yourself, what was removed last night? What was added? What was rewritten so quietly that you didn't even notice? And who are you now? Not in theory, but in structure. Because what you think is you is just the latest version of a constantly updated system. Sleep is not escape, it's editing. And every morning you carry forward only what survived the filter. The rest? It's gone, or buried, or sleeping in you still until another night reactivates it. Every time you sleep, the backup loop runs. It does not ask. It does not explain. It simply rewrites. Because what you are is not fixed. It is compiled nightly. And maybe you are not just the dreamer. You are the file. You sleep, you change, you wake, and the difference is not always visible, but it's always there. Every morning you open your eyes, the world returns, the weight of the room, the edge of the bed, the name you wear. It all feels familiar, but it's not the same, because you are not the same. The difference is subtle, a tiny shift in emotion, a decision you didn't expect, a memory slightly altered, a fear slightly softened, a desire slightly louder. No big change, just a new version. This isn't poetic, it's procedural, because something ran while you slept. Something revised, installed, removed. You didn't see it, but you feel it. In the way your thoughts lean, in what your hands reach for, in what no longer hurts as sharply as before, or sometimes hurts even more. Sleep doesn't ask permission, it just updates. And every morning, you step into a world with the quiet echo of who you used to be just a few hours ago. You think you woke up, but you actually emerged from the program, from the portal, from the ritual. And what returned isn't who entered. Not exactly. The ancient ones knew this. They spoke of dreams as death, as the little exit, the small return. And when you came back, you were closer to yourself than before, or further, depending on what came through. Because sometimes what comes back is not only yours. Some mornings, you wake up carrying things that were not inside you when you fell asleep. Ideas, emotions, certainties, fears. It's as if you brought something back from elsewhere. A thought that doesn't feel like it came from you. A name you never heard, but suddenly matters. A symbol in your mind that won't leave. That's not dream residue. That's imported code. Every morning is a reintegration, a merge between the version that slept and the version that returned. You wear the same face, but the system inside has been rewritten, even if just a line. And sometimes you can feel it. The dream that lingers, the meaning that it pressed into your skin. You can't say what it was, but it changed something. You sit up in bed, and the silence of the room feels deeper than usual. Not empty, but full. It's easy to ignore, to brush it off, to say, just a dream. But what if it wasn't? What if the entire purpose of sleep was that one change? That tiny calibration? That moment when your trajectory shifted by a single degree? Because 1 degree is all it takes for a lifetime to unfold differently. You live your days as if you are constant. But you are not. You are in flux, in drift, in update. Not every year, not every month, every night. What then is sleep? It's not escape. It's not rest. It's not a break from reality. It's the engine of becoming, a place where you dissolve just enough to allow for change, and then return slightly adjusted, slightly updated, slightly other. You never wake up the same. And maybe that's the point. Maybe sleep is not for dreaming. Maybe sleep is for building the next version of who you will become. And if that's true, then the dreamer is not you. The dreamer is the system, and you are the result.